On my birthday I didn't wake up to love. I woke up to betrayal. No calls, no flowers, no message from the man who promised this day would always be ours. By nightfall I found him in another woman's arms, calling her his sister. That was the moment I stopped being his girlfriend, and started being his reckoning. The first sound that morning wasn't a phone buzzing with birthday wishes. It was silence. I rolled over in bed, sunlight already filtering through the thin curtains, and reached instinctively for my phone. A lock screen with no notifications stared back at me. I blinked once, twice. Maybe the network was slow. Maybe Damien had already texted but the app hadn't refreshed. I swiped down. Nothing. Not a happy birthday. Not a good morning. Not even an emoji. For most people maybe it wouldn't have mattered. But for me, for us, it mattered more than anything. Because 3 years ago on this exact day Damien Hale had stood before me, holding a bunch of sunflowers, the petals gold against his dark suit. He had smiled with that polished charm that could melt even professors and investors and said, "Elena, every year I want your birthday to remind us of the day we began." It had been his idea. His promise. His anniversary date. And yet here I was, scrolling back to our last WeChat conversation from a week ago. Just a bland, "I'm busy these days. Don't wait up." 7 days without a word. 7 days where my boyfriend, my supposed partner, had vanished into thin air. I typed a message. "Morning. Are we still on for tonight?" Deleted it. Typed again. "Happy anniversary, Damien." Deleted that too. I locked the screen and pressed the phone against my chest, feeling something heavy stir inside me. Today wasn't just a birthday. It was supposed to be our day. By evening I found myself sitting at the long dining table in the Hale family mansion. It had been Damien's suggestion months ago. "Move in, Elena. My parents will come around once they see you every day. Don't let their words get to you." His parents hadn't come around. The housekeeper rarely spoke to me. The chauffeur never asked if I needed a ride. The staff looked through me as if I were some stray cat Damien had dragged in. And Vivian Hale, his mother, had perfected the art of disdain. Always smiling too sweetly when guests were around, but slicing me open with sharp words when we were alone. "You're from the countryside, Elena. You wouldn't understand these circles. You dress decently but there's something cheap about girls who try too hard. Damien deserves someone who matches his upbringing." Every time Damien would pat my hand and murmur, "Don't mind her. She's sharp-tongued but soft-hearted." Soft-hearted. Right. If Vivian's heart was soft, mine was made of steel wool. Tonight, the chandelier bathed the dining room in warm light, glinting off crystal goblets and silver cutlery. The table was set for two but only one chair was occupied. Before me sat a spread that could have fed a small army. Lobster and butter sauce, duck braised in wine, abalone soup simmering with delicate herbs. Dishes that belonged to a world I still felt like a trespasser in. And opposite me Damien's seat sat empty. "Miss Brooks," came the voice from my left. I turned. The butler, mid-50s, immaculate suit, expression carved from ice, stood at attention. His voice carried that faint sharpness of someone who'd spent years practicing subtle cruelty. "Mr. Hale asked me to inform you," he said, his lips barely twitching, "that he has something to take care of tonight. You will be dining alone." The words landed like a slap, though his tone was neutral as though he were discussing the weather. I blinked. Fully. Carefully. "Something to take care of?" He inclined his head. "Yes, miss." A bitter laugh bubbled in my throat but I swallowed it. Of course Damien had something to take care of. It wasn't me. It wasn't our anniversary. It wasn't the promise he'd made 3 years ago with sunflowers in hand. It was something, or rather someone, else. The butler's gaze swept the untouched plates. "Shall I reheat the dishes later?" I didn't answer. My phone was already in my hand, my fingers trembling as I tapped Damien's name. Once. No answer. Twice. No answer. 3 times. Still no answer. My jaw tightened. I hit dial again, refusing to give up. Finally, on what must have been the 6th or 7th try, the line clicked. "What is it, Elena?" Damien's voice came through, low and etched with irritation. "Why are you being so difficult?" Difficult. I closed my eyes. Counted to 3. "It's my birthday, Damien." Silence. For one brief second I thought maybe Just maybe he'd say the words I'd been waiting for all day. Then came the sound of bass thumping through speakers, glasses clinking, laughter spilling from male and female voices alike. The unmistakable chaos of a bar. "I told you I'm busy," he said, softer this time, as if soft could erase the noise behind him. "Don't make a scene." I laughed. Sarcastic. "Busy? Busy drinking with your friends." His sigh was exasperated, like I was a child interrupting playtime. "Sophia just came back from abroad. She's still adjusting. I've always treated her like a little sister." "Don't talk like this." Sophia Lynn. The name alone was enough to sour my stomach. She'd flown in a week ago, and since then Damien had become a ghost. Meetings. Dinners. Late nights. Excuses. Always busy. Always unavailable. But photographs didn't lie. Even as he spoke, my phone buzzed with a new notification. A message from Maya Torres. My best friend since high school, the one person who'd never sugarcoat the truth. 3 photos lit up my screen. In the first, Damien had his arm draped casually over Sophia's shoulders, his body angled toward her in a way no brother leaned. In the second, Sophia pressed close, cheek to cheek, their smiles dazzling as though posing for an engagement shoot. And in the third, she held his wine glass to her lips, her lipstick smudging the rim he'd just used. My heart twisted, a violent squeeze that left me breathless. Anyone who saw these photos would say, what a perfect couple. But Damien was my boyfriend. I lowered the phone, staring at the feast before me. Lobster duck soup, all untouched. All wasted. My throat closed, nausea rising. The butler had clearly overheard everything. I felt his eyes on me, the faint curl of amusement at the corner of his mouth. "Miss Brooks," he said, voice tinged with contempt. "Shall I reheat the dishes?" The polite thing would have been to nod. To smile. To pretend his words hadn't cut deeper than knives. But something in me cracked. Something that had been cracking slowly for years, under Vivian's disdain, under the staff's dismissal, under Damien's careless neglect. Tonight, on my birthday, with photos of betrayal burning on my screen, the crack widened into a fissure. I stood. The chair scraped loudly against the marble floor. The butler stiffened, surprised. Without another word, I placed both hands on the edge of the table and pushed. The sound was thunderous. Plates clattered. Crystal shattered. Soup spilled across the marble like blood across a battlefield. The lobster slid to the ground with a sickening splat. The butler's mouth dropped open. "Miss Brooks." I straightened, my chest heaving, and sneered. No need. For years I had played the part of the gentle girlfriend. Smiling when insulted, nodding when ignored, folding myself into someone else's story. But not anymore. On the day Damien Hale forgot both my birthday and our anniversary, surrounded by a feast meant to pacify me, I finally remembered who I was. Not a doll. Not a placeholder. I was Elena Brooks. And I was done being gentle. The porcelain still glistened where it had shattered against the marble. Soup seeped across the floor, gliding into tiny cracks between the tiles like a river of wasted effort. The butler stood frozen, staring at the carnage. His immaculate gloves trembled, though his lips pressed tight in that permanent expression of disapproval. I didn't move. Not at first. I simply stood there, shoulders squared, breathing heavy as if I had just gone 10 rounds in the ring. The sound of my own pulse filled my ears, louder than the faint clatter of a serving spoon rolling to a stop somewhere on the floor. The silence didn't last long. The sharp staccato of heels echoed across the hall. Click, click, click. Vivian Hale had arrived. She was a woman who never appeared without armor. Tonight her armor was a tailored black dress, sharp at the waist and high at the collar, her 6-inch heels gleaming like onyx. Her hair, perfectly coiled at the nape of her neck, did not move even as she entered the disaster zone. Her eyes, Damien's eyes except colder, swept over me, over the wreckage of her dining room. Her brows drew together. "What?" she said slowly, her voice dipped in poison. "Are you doing here?" The butler, regaining his wits, bowed quickly. "Madam," Miss Brooks overturned the table. I was about to. Her gaze sliced through him. He fell silent at once. Then her attention landed back on me. Her lips curved upward, but the smile was venom. "I always knew you'd reveal your true colors one day." Vivian didn't raise her voice. He didn't need to. Every word landed with the precision of a whip. "You really thought you could step into this family?" she asked. Someone from your background? Her eyes flicked over my clothes, my posture, my clenched fists. Elena Brooks, daughter of a failed small-town businessman. You should stop dreaming. Damien deserves someone who can stand beside him without dragging him down. Her voice softened, almost wistful. Sophia Lynn, now there's a girl of breeding. I've known her since she was a child. Smart, refined, from a family of true standing. When I picture my future daughter-in-law, I see someone like her, not a countryside stray trying to gnaw on scraps of our wealth. The butler smirked faintly behind her shoulder, as if her words had given him permission to breathe again. I said nothing. Not yet. 3 years of biting my tongue had prepared me for this moment. I remembered the first time she'd insulted me, at a family luncheon, whispering to another guest that I was sweet but hopelessly provincial. I had smiled through the meal, pretending not to hear. I remembered the gala where she had introduced me as a friend of Damien's rather than his girlfriend. Again, I had swallowed the humiliation. Even last month, when she'd laughed at the gift I'd chosen for her birthday, a scarf I had saved for months to buy, saying, "It's thoughtful, but I already have silk from Paris," I had forced a smile. But not tonight. Not after the photos. Not after Damien's lies. Not on my birthday. I let out a low, humorless laugh. Like mother, like son. Vivian's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me. You support your son having a mistress," I said evenly, "so no wonder your husband cheats too." Her face blanched, then flushed scarlet. The room seemed to freeze. The butler actually inhaled sharply as though I'd committed blasphemy. "Watch your mouth," she snapped. But I didn't stop. I couldn't. The words had been caged too long. "Everyone in this city knows Charles Hale has mistresses," I continued, my tone sharp as glass. "Half his illegitimate children are old enough to vote. But of course you don't want anyone to bring that up, do you? Just like you pretend Sophia's sisterhood with Damien is innocent." Her lips trembled with rage. "How dare you? Why not dare?" I cut her off. My voice rose, steady and fierce. "You think because I'm from a small town I should stay quiet while your son parades around with another woman? You think your wealth makes you untouchable? It doesn't. You can buy silence, Mrs. Hale, but you can't buy respect. And you'll never have mine." For the first time in 3 years, Vivian Hale faltered. Her perfectly painted mouth opened and closed once, twice, before she steadied herself with a sharp inhale. "You insolent." But her voice lacked the same sting. I had struck a nerve. Because the truth about Charles Hale's affairs was the one secret the Hales never wanted spoken aloud. A rotten foundation holding up their pristine mansion. Everyone whispered, but no one dared confront Vivian directly. Until tonight. Her hands shook as she reached for the back of a chair, gripping it so tightly her knuckles whitened. For a flicker of a moment, I saw not the unflinching matriarch but a woman cornered, a wife humiliated, a mother furious that her perfect image had cracked. And I smiled. I picked up my phone from the table where I had dropped it earlier, slipped it into my pocket, then straightened to my full height, even though my heels were nowhere near her 6-inch stilettos. "You wanted me to show my true colors," I said quietly. "Consider it done." Then I turned. Behind me, Vivian hissed, "Aren't you afraid I'll tell Damien about this?" I stopped at the doorway, my hand resting on the polished wood frame. Slowly I looked back. "Afraid of what?" I asked. My voice was ice. "I don't even want Damien Hale anymore." And with that I walked out of the Hale mansion, leaving Vivian Hale trembling in the ruins of her perfect dinner table. The night air bit at my skin as I walked away from the Hale mansion. My heels clicked against the pavement, each step sharper than the last. The weight on my chest had lifted, at least a little. For the first time in years, I hadn't swallowed my pride. I'd spat it back in their faces. But once the adrenaline wore off, silence wrapped itself around me again. My birthday. My anniversary. And I was walking home alone. The streets blurred past in streaks of neon. Somewhere a drunk couple laughed too loudly. A delivery driver zoomed by, swearing under his breath. The world moved on, uncaring, as if tonight wasn't supposed to mean something to me. By the time I reached the small apartment Damien and I had rented near the university, my body felt hollow. I unlocked the door, stepped into the familiar living room, and let the darkness swallow me. The apartment was still half mine, half his. His cologne lingered faintly on the couch cushions. His textbooks and business magazines littered the coffee table. His jacket hung on the chair where I had told him twice that it didn't belong. And yet, staring at it now, I didn't feel tenderness. I felt nothing. I went into the bedroom and opened the wardrobe. My clothes hung neatly on the left, his on the right. I pulled out a suitcase from the bottom shelf, dropped it onto the bed and unzipped it with a hiss. One by one I started folding his things into it. Shirts, trousers, socks. I didn't bother being careful. Every crease, every wrinkle felt like justice. By the time I reached his neatly pressed suits, my movements had grown sharp, mechanical. Each piece I packed wasn't just clothing. It was 3 years of swallowed anger. 3 years of waiting. 3 years of believing in a man who had already chosen someone else. I was zipping up the suitcase when the sound of a key scraped at the lock. The door swung open. I froze, suitcase in hand, as 2 figures stumbled inside. Damien. His tie hung loose, his shirt half untucked, and his steps were unsteady. His face was flushed, his breath heavy with alcohol. And beside him, holding his arm like a delicate accessory, was Sophia Lynn. "Careful, Damien," she whispered sweetly, steadying him as though she were the only one capable of guiding him home. "You're home now." Home. The word burned in my ears. "Thanks, Sophia," Damien mumbled, collapsing halfway onto the couch. That was when Sophia spotted me. I stood in the bedroom doorway, arms crossed, watching them. Her eyes widened in mock surprise before her lips curled into a bright smile. "Elena." "Hi." She said it like we were old friends meeting by chance at a cafe. "Damien drank a little too much tonight. Don't misunderstand, okay? He was just really happy." Her voice dripped honey, but her eyes, smug, triumphant. She tilted her head, feigning concern. "Oh, right. I heard today's your birthday. I'm so sorry, I only found out on the way home. What a shame. But don't worry, I'll make sure he makes it up to you tomorrow." I smiled coldly. "Don't bother. He won't be celebrating my birthday again." Her smile faltered. "Elena, you're not misunderstanding the two of us, are you? Damien and I are just like siblings. Please don't take it the wrong way." I let out a sharp laugh. Then, slow and deliberate, I began clapping. "So touching," I drawled. "Siblings who hug each other at bars, smile cheek to cheek for photos, and share the same wine glass. Really pure. Really touching." Sophia's face flushed crimson. Her mask cracked. "You see filth everywhere because your heart is filthy," she snapped. I stepped forward, my gaze steady. "Sophia, I don't blame women for men's choices. If Damien cheated, that's on him. But if you keep parading around in front of me, I can't guarantee I won't slap that fake innocence right off your face." Her eyes welled with tears instantly, her favorite weapon. She looked away, sniffling softly as if I had been the aggressor. But I'd seen the smugness in her eyes. I turned, grabbed the suitcase I had packed, and marched back into the living room. With a sharp motion, I threw it onto the floor in front of Damien. "Get out," I said flatly. Sophia gasped, hands flying to her lips. "Elena, how can you? This apartment is mine," I cut her off. "I paid the rent. I signed the lease. Damien doesn't get to cheat and keep a roof over his head." The suitcase hit Damien's leg. He stirred, half drunk, blinking blearily at me. "Elena," he slurred, "what are you making a scene for?" Sophia rushed to his side, crouching beside him, her voice trembling with faux desperation. "Damien, she misunderstood us. We were just—" I didn't let her finish. I grabbed Damien by the collar, yanked him to his feet, and shoved the suitcase into his chest. 10 years of boxing practice lent strength to my arms. He staggered, nearly falling flat before stumbling toward the door. "Elena," he sputtered. I shoved harder, my face cold, my voice calm. "Out." Outside the door, Damien wobbled, nearly collapsing under his own weight. Sophia rushed to hold him up, glaring back at me through the doorway. "Elena, you'll regret this," she hissed. I smiled faintly. I regret ever letting him in to begin with. Then with one swift motion I kicked the door shut in their faces. The slam echoed through the apartment, final and satisfying. For a long moment I leaned against the door, my chest heaving, ears ringing with the aftershock. I could still hear muffled voices outside, Sophia's high-pitched curses, Damien's drunken protests, but they faded as the elevator whisked them away. Inside, the apartment was silent. Finally mine. I walked back into the bedroom, stared at the empty half of the wardrobe and let out a long breath. For the first time in years I felt something close to peace. The peace of knowing I had finally chosen myself. And yet, beneath the calm, one truth burned bright. This wasn't the end. Damien and Sophia thought they had won. But this was only the beginning. Silence reigned in the apartment after I slammed the door on Damien and Sophia. I leaned against it, chest rising and falling, the adrenaline still hot in my veins. The suitcase was gone. So was he. And with them went 3 years of wasted devotion. But peace never lasts long. Not when betrayal is still breathing just outside. I turned off the lights, showered, and tried to wash the night off my skin. By the time I stepped out, hair damp and pajamas clinging to me, the vibration of my phone drew me back into battle. It wasn't one notification. It was dozens. I picked up my phone. The group chat that Damien and I shared with our so-called mutual friends was flooded. Over 99 messages lit the screen, the numbers climbing faster than I could read. Scrolling, I caught the spark that had set the fire. A screenshot of Sophia's social media post. I brought Damien home tonight. His girlfriend misunderstood. I swear we're just like brother and sister. Attached. A blurry photo of my apartment door. My hand tightened around the phone. So this was her move. Paint me as the jealous girlfriend. Paint herself as the gentle, understanding sister. The comments from the group chat made my stomach twist. Elena, you're seriously overreacting. Come on, Sophia grew up with us. She's not that kind of girl. You should apologize to her. Don't be so narrow-minded. If you're this sensitive, how will you stay in this circle? I stared at the screen. These weren't friends. These were Damien's business cronies, parasites fattened by the Hale family's wealth. Of course they would side with him. Then, as if she had been invited to her own stage, Sophia herself was added to the chat. Her username popped up, followed by a message that dripped false humility. Please don't speak badly of Elena. She just misunderstood. She's not really that kind of person. The meek defense. The gracious act. And predictably it worked. She's too kind. See? Even Sophia's defending her. Elena, why can't you be more like this? Honestly, Damien deserves someone with Sophia's temperament. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. My pulse thudded in my ears. For 3 years they had seen me as the quiet one. The girl who smiled politely. Who endured. Who knew her place. They thought I would swallow this humiliation too. I typed slowly, deliberately. I hope your partners also find a few sisters to hug at bars. Maybe you'll enjoy watching them share drinks too. As for me, I don't. Silence. The group went dead for 3 long minutes, the little dots of typing blinking and vanishing. They hadn't expected this. They thought I'd stay meek. Someone finally broke the silence. Is that really Elena? Did someone hack her account? She's lost her mind. I smiled. Let them think so. Sophia was good at twisting the story. She could turn black into white with a flutter of her lashes. But tonight I had proof. I opened my gallery. The photos Maya had sent me blazed back at me. Damien's arm around Sophia, their faces pressed close, her lipstick smudging his glass. I blurred their faces just enough to protect Maya. But the body language told the truth louder than names ever could. Then I posted them everywhere. My moments, my little red book, my Weibo. The man is my boyfriend. The woman is his sister. No blood relation. They say they're innocent. Do you believe them? For a moment the apartment was quiet again. Then my phone erupted. Likes. Comments. Shares. My post was spreading like wildfire. Girl, if that's just a sister, I'm Santa Claus. Look at the way they're leaning on each other. That's no sibling hug. Run, sis. He's trash. Some mocked me. Some comforted me. But most were outraged at them. I felt the first flicker of satisfaction bloom in my chest. But the night wasn't done yet. I went to the window, gazing down at the parking lot. Damien's car wasn't there. Which meant when I'd thrown them out, they hadn't driven it. They must have taken Sophia's car. And both of them had reeked of alcohol. My lips curved. I picked up the phone again and dialed the police. Hello, I said sweetly. I'd like to report a drunk driver. The officer's tone sharpened. License plate number? I gave it. Thank you, he said. If it checks out, you'll receive a civic reward of 300 yuan. Thank you, I replied, my smile widening. Just doing my duty. When I hung up, I felt lighter. For once, Damien's sins wouldn't stay hidden in the shadows of his family name. Tonight he would face consequences. Afterward, I set the phone down and walked to the bathroom mirror. Water still dripped from my hair, trailing down my shoulders. My eyes were red, not from tears but from fire. I barely recognized the girl staring back. For years I had played the gentle girlfriend, the one who smiled while others mocked, who bent so Damien could shine. But that girl was gone. In her place was someone sharper. Someone who could burn. Sophia wanted a war? She had won. Morning sunlight slipped through the curtains, warm against my face. For the first time in months, I had slept without dreaming of Damien Hale. No anxious waiting for his call. No replaying his promises in my head. Just silence. But silence never lasted long. When I turned on my phone, the screen lit up with chaos. My social media posts from last night had gone viral. Strangers debated my life as if it were the latest reality show. If that's his sister, I'm the Pope. Go leave him. Men like this never change. Wait, isn't he Damien Hale from Metro Group? I scrolled through, skimming insults and sympathy alike. My thumb hovered over the block button more than once, but mostly I felt detached. Let them gossip. At least the truth was finally exposed. Then my phone buzzed with an incoming call, from an unknown number. For a moment I hesitated. Then I answered. Elena, a familiar voice rasped, hoarse and desperate. Damien. Elena, it's me, he said quickly. I need you to come to the police station. Please. My eyebrows lifted. So the report worked. What for? I asked, my tone deliberately flat. He exhaled shakily. They caught me driving under the influence. My license is revoked and they want to detain me. I just need someone to sign the papers. Please don't let my parents know. You're the only one I can call. In the background I heard an officer's voice, curt and businesslike. Damien must have borrowed the phone. A smile tugged at my lips. You want me to sign you out? Yes, he said quickly, hope surging into his voice. Just this once. I'll explain everything after. I let the silence stretch, savoring the way his breathing grew frantic on the line. Then, sweet as sugar, I said, Damien, I was the one who reported your DUI. On the other end, silence. Elena, he whispered finally, disbelieving. You what? I gave the police your license plate number, I said calmly. You and Sophia reeked of alcohol when you stumbled into my apartment. I wasn't about to let the two of you drive drunk and endanger innocent people. Reporting you was just my civic duty. You, his voice cracked, rising with panic and fury. How could you betray me like this? Aren't you afraid of making my mother angry? You used to want to marry into my family. I laughed softly. Your family? Damien, we broke up last night. You're not my future anymore. And as for your mother, she can stay angry. I couldn't care less. I paused, then added, actually, since we're speaking of your mother, remember the painting I gave her for New Year's? Damien hesitated. What about it? The one by Master Adrian Brooks, I said evenly. I want it back. His voice hardened. Elena, you gave that painting to my family. You can't just. I didn't give it, I interrupted. I lent it. And I only did that because you said we'd get married, and you wanted your mother to use it to smooth things over with your grandmother. That was my dowry, Damien. My heritage. You don't get to keep it now. Elena. If you don't return it, I cut him off coldly, don't expect me to stay polite. He was breathing hard now, his composure cracking. Elena, please. Not here, not like this. Just sign the papers and we'll talk outside. Don't humiliate me in front of the police. Humiliation. I tilted my head, though he couldn't see it. No, Damien. Humiliation is what you gave me when you paraded Sophia around like a prize. Humiliation is what your mother spat in my face last night. All I'm asking for now is my property back. Elena, you're being unreasonable. I hung up. Moments later, my phone buzzed again. A different voice this time, an officer, formal and brisk. Miss Brooks? Thank you for your report last night. Mr. Hale has been formally charged with DUI at intoxication level. His license will be revoked and he may face detention. By law, a family member must sign his release. Are you his legal guardian or relative? No, I said smoothly. Not anymore. But, was he alone? The officer hesitated. He was accompanied by a Miss Lin. They checked into a hotel together. Surveillance footage confirms it. I smiled faintly. Thank you, officer. That's all I needed. After the call, I sat at the edge of the bed, my thoughts spinning. So Damien and Sophia had gone to a hotel after drinking. Not just driving under the influence, but cheating in plain sight. And the police now had footage. Evidence. It was almost poetic. They thought they could twist stories online, paint themselves as siblings, smear me as the jealous girlfriend. But this was official, stamped with law and order. No amount of money could erase the truth forever. But even as satisfaction burned through me, a heavier thought pressed down. The painting. It wasn't just valuable, it was priceless. My grandfather, Adrian Brooks, had painted it when he was at the height of his career. I had grown up with it hanging in our family home, the strokes etched into my memory. When Damien discovered it was authentic, he had begged me to gift it to his mother. It'll help her with the family politics, he'd said. Once we're married, it'll still belong to us. I had trusted him. Trusted his promises. No. His mother had used it to secure her position, to win over the grandmother who despised her. That painting was mine. My legacy. And I would take it back, even if I had to drag the entire Hale family down to do it. I stood, walked to the mirror and looked myself in the eye. I wasn't the Elena who flinched under Vivian Hale's scorn. I wasn't the Elena who smiled while Sophia clung to my boyfriend. I was Elena Brooks, the granddaughter of a master, the woman who had just toppled a golden boy into the mud. And today I would reclaim what was mine. The morning after Damien's panicked phone call, I sat in my apartment sipping coffee, my phone buzzing non-stop. Social media hadn't slept. Hashtags about Damien Hale DUI and brother-sister love flooded the trending charts. Half the city was dissecting his downfall, while the other half tried to guess whether I'd truly walk away. But today gossip wasn't enough. Today I would make my demand loud enough for the entire world to hear. I opened my livestream app. The little red Start Broadcast button pulsed on the screen like a heartbeat. My thumb hovered steady. Then I pressed it. Hello everyone, I said, voice calm but resonant. I'm Elena Brooks. Some of you may have seen the rumors about me, Damien Hale and Sophia Lin. You've seen the photos. You've seen the police report. But what you haven't seen, what you deserve to know, is that this isn't just about a breakup. The viewer count ticked upward. 100. 200. Then thousands. This is about theft, I continued, leaning closer to the camera. 3 years ago, Damien told me we'd get married. I trusted him, and because of that trust, I lent his mother a painting. An original by Master Adrian Brooks, my grandfather. That painting was meant to be my dowry, a gift for my future family. But now, after Damien's betrayal, I want it back. The comments exploded. She's bold. Wait, her grandfather is Adrian Brooks? The Adrian Brooks. That painting must be worth millions. By noon, I was standing outside the Hale estate. The mansion loomed behind its iron gates, pristine and arrogant. But I wasn't alone. Beside me stood a small group of workers Maya had helped me hire. Men with strong voices and even stronger lungs. I raised a megaphone. Gentlemen. They grinned, then shouted in unison. Refusing to return the painting is against justice. The chant rang out, sharp and relentless, echoing down the pristine neighborhood streets. Passers-by slowed. Curious neighbors gathered. Someone recognized me from the live stream and hurried closer. Within minutes, the crowd doubled, then tripled. On the app, the viewer count skyrocketed past 100,000. Comments scrolled so fast they blurred. She's fearless. Hale family exposed. Return the painting. It didn't take long for the police to show up, called no doubt by the panicked Hales. Ma'am, this is disturbing the neighborhood, one officer said firmly. I lowered the megaphone, my smile polite. Officer, I apologize. But I'm only here to demand the return of my property. That painting belongs to my family. Surely you agree I have the right to ask for it back. His sternness softened. You can pursue it through legal channels. Of course, I said. But until then I'll exercise my right to peaceful protest. After a beat, the officer nodded. There's a park nearby. If you move there, it won't count as disturbing the peace. Perfect. And so we moved. By late afternoon, the small park near the Hale estate pulsed with life. Elderly women from the square dance troupe gave us their spot, joining the chant with surprising vigor. College students streamed in after spotting my live stream, holding up handmade signs that read, "Return the painting," and "Justice for Elena." Even children joined, their high-pitched voices adding to the chorus. Refusing to return the painting is against justice. I used money from livestream tips to buy bottled water and snacks for everyone. In return, volunteers performed impromptu songs and dances, ending each act with the rallying cry. The energy was electric. The livestream surged past 1 million viewers. Meanwhile, online the scandal exploded further. Influencers reposted clips of me chanting with the crowd. Comment sections filled with outrage. The Hales borrow a dowry painting and refuse to return it? Shameless. If they cheat in relationships, no wonder they cheat in business. Sell their stock, guys. Metro Group is rotten. By sunset, Metro Group's stock had already dropped 7%. Panic rippled through financial forums. Analysts debated whether the scandal could topple the once stable conglomerate. And still the Hales stayed silent. The next morning my phone rang. A number I recognized instantly. "Elena," came Vivian Hales' tight voice. "We'll return the painting. Meet me at the Grand Regent Hotel. Bring no one." I smiled faintly. "I'll bring my audience." When I arrived at the hotel lobby, the live stream was already rolling. Over 2 million viewers tuned in, waiting. Vivian appeared, face pale under layers of makeup, a large package in her hands. She held it out stiffly. "Here," she snapped. "Take it." I unwrapped it carefully, revealing a painting. At first glance it looked like my grandfather's work. The familiar strokes, the familiar colors. But the moment I touched it, my skin prickled. Texture. The weight. Wrong. This wasn't the original. I lifted my phone, opened an old video Damien had sent me years ago. In it, Vivian admired the painting at home, turning it toward the camera. "There," I said into the live stream, pointing to the corner of the canvas. Master Brooks always included a private stamp on his authentic works. Right here. The video clearly showed the small crimson stamp. I turned the painting in my hands. No stamp. The chat exploded. "Fake. It's fake. They tried to swap it." So Metro Group not only cheats girlfriends, but also forges art? Vivian's face darkened. "This is the one you gave us. Are you accusing me of fraud?" I smiled coldly. "I'm not accusing. I'm proving." Within minutes, the scandal engulfed every corner of the internet. Headlines blared, "Hale family accused of art forgery in dowry scandal." Investors panicked. Metro Group's stock plummeted another 10%. And in the hotel lobby, with millions watching live, Vivian Hale's mask cracked at last. "You," she hissed, finger trembling as she pointed at me. "You ruin everything." But I didn't flinch. For once, the ruin wasn't mine. It was theirs. The hotel lobby reeked of perfumed nerves and the faint musk of old carpet. My phone trembled in my grip, though my hand was steady. On screen, the livestream counter ticked upward. 2 million, 3 million, comment after comment flooding in. All eyes were on me, on the canvas in my arms, on Vivian Hale's paling face. "This," I said clearly into the camera, "is not the painting I gave the Hales." The crowd murmured. Reporters who had smelled blood edged closer, cameras flashing. Vivian tried to recover, her painted lips stretching into something like composure. "That is exactly what you gave us. If you say otherwise, then you're admitting you gave us a counterfeit in the first place." The words should have landed like a dagger. But instead, laughter rippled through the crowd. The internet too exploded with disbelief. "So she's saying Elena scammed herself? Nice try, witch. If Metro Group lies this badly, no wonder their stock is tanking." Damien appeared then, slipping into the lobby in a wrinkled suit. He looked tired, bruised by the public beating his reputation had taken, but still tried to muster his old charm. "Elena," he said, stepping closer, "let's talk privately. Please turn off the live stream. I'll return the painting in 3 days. I swear." 3 days. I tilted my head, smiling icily. "What, so you can forge another copy? Raise some cash on the black market? Oh, Damien. You have 3 hours. Not 3 days. The chat roared its approval. "Queen energy. She gave him 3 years, he wants 3 more days? Joke." Damien flinched, his jaw tight. For once, the golden boy had no comeback. And then came the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps. The crowd parted, murmurs spreading like ripples across water. A man, elderly yet upright, walked through the lobby with a quiet authority that silenced even the clicking cameras. My chest tightened. "Grandpa," I whispered. "Master Adrian Brooks." To the world, he was a reclusive legend, one of the last great painters whose works hung in galleries across continents. To me, he was the man who'd once let me sit on his lap, smearing paint across his old coats as he taught me how to see color. And now he was my final weapon. He approached, his sharp eyes scanning the canvas in my arms. With a single glance, he snorted, unimpressed. "This," he said, his voice carrying across the lobby. "This isn't mine. I would never put my name on something so crude." Gasps tore through the crowd. I turned my phone toward him. "Grandpa, will you confirm this on record? The world is watching." He nodded. "Yes. I am Adrian Brooks. And this painting is a forgery." The livestream chat detonated. The legend himself? They tried to cheat his own granddaughter? Pack it up, Hales. Game over. Vivian staggered, clutching the back of a chair. This is a setup," she hissed. But her words sounded weak even to her own ears. Sophia Lynn, pale and trembling, lunged forward suddenly. Her manicured nails clawed at my phone. "Stop streaming," she shrieked. "This is slander." At the same time, Damien rushed at me from the other side, reaching for the canvas. For a heartbeat, it was chaos. Shouts, scuffling, the sharp cry of someone knocking into a table. My instinct kicked in. I shoved the painting behind me and pushed Sophia back with a sharp, practiced move. 10 years of boxing had not gone to waste. She stumbled, heels skidding against the marble. Damien cursed, grabbing at my wrist. "Give it back, Elena. Get your hands off me." I snarled, twisting free. The livestream viewers saw everything. Their desperation, their violence, their guilt. And so did the police, who stormed in moments later, summoned by bystanders. "Step away from her," an officer barked, shoving Damien back. Another restrained Sophia, who burst into crocodile tears. "Officer, she's lying," Sophia wailed. "We never stole anything." "Quiet," the officer snapped. "You're being detained on suspicion of fraud and forgery. Save your excuses for the station." Vivian tried to protest, but the sight of her son and Sophia in cuffs silenced her. When the officer turned to her with a cold, "Madame Hale will need your statement as well," her painted face crumpled. The cameras flashed mercilessly. The internet had its field day. Me. I simply lifted my chin, holding my grandfather's hand. Within an hour, news sites exploded with headlines. Hale heir detained in forgery scandal. Sophia Lynn, from angel to accused. Vivian Hale's collapse. Matriarch questioned by police. Stock tickers flashed red across every screen. Metro Group plummeted further. Billions wiped from its market cap in a single day. The once invincible Hales, undone not by rivals, not by competitors, but by the truth. As the police escorted Damien, Sophia, and Vivian out, I stood in the hotel lobby surrounded by reporters, my livestream still rolling. I looked into the camera, my voice steady. "You can forge paintings. You can forge stories. But you can't forge justice." The comments blurred with praise, cheers, digital roses and fireworks flooding the screen. For the first time in years, I wasn't just surviving the Hales. I was winning. The next morning, the headlines were merciless. Hale heir detained in fraud case. Socialite Sophia Lynn under investigation. Matriarch Vivian Hale questioned by police. Every paper, every site, every gossip page carried their faces, caught mid-sneer, mid-cry, mid-collapse. And splashed alongside them always was me. The girl they once dismissed as small town. The girlfriend they treated like dirt. The one who had walked away with her head high, a live stream and the truth. Metro Group stock fell like a landslide. 10% the first day, another 12% the next. Investors pulled out in droves, terrified of being associated with a company rotting from the inside. On financial news channels, analysts debated in grave tones. Once a pillar of stability, Metro Group now faces shareholder revolt. The scandal has severely damaged their credibility. There are calls for Charles Hale to step down. By the end of the week, those calls became reality. Charles Hale, the ever-smiling patriarch who had quietly kept mistresses for decades, finally acted. Vivian's disastrous handling of the scandal had cost him too much. His reputation, his company's stability, his shareholders' trust. Papers were filed. Divorce finalized at lightning speed. And in the cruelest twist, Charles didn't just leave Vivian. He paraded one of his illegitimate children into the family home, a boy barely 18, and publicly declared him his heir apparent. Vivian's screams, they said, echoed through the estate for hours before she was escorted out. Damien was no longer the golden boy. The DUI alone had cost him his license. But the forgery? That sealed his fate. 6 months minimum, legal experts said. Fraud, forgery, obstruction. It piled on like bricks, crushing him under their weight. Once the darling of the business world, the young man every parent wanted their daughter to marry, Damien Hale was now reduced to a cautionary tale. Reporters caught glimpses of him on his way to hearings. Hair disheveled, eyes hollow, the arrogance gone. I felt nothing. Not pity. Not triumph. Just nothing. As for Sophia Lynn, her performance couldn't save her anymore. Her tearful pleas online were met with laughter. Screenshots of her brother-sister posts resurfaced, spliced against the hotel footage and police reports. Her sponsors dropped her. Invitations vanished. Even old friends deleted her from their contacts. When prosecutors confirmed she'd colluded with Vivian to hide the real painting, her fate aligned with Damien's. The girl who had smiled so smugly at me in my own apartment now sat in a cell, her carefully painted mask stripped away. Through it all, my focus never wavered. The painting. My grandfather's masterpiece. The piece I had trusted to Damien, only to see twisted into a weapon against me. 2 weeks after the arrests, I walked into the evidence room at the station flanked by officers. And there it was. The canvas, authentic and whole, the crimson seal gleaming faintly in the corner. Grandpa touched it reverently, his old hands trembling. At last, he murmured. Back where it belongs. I looked at him, my throat tight. For the first time in years I felt peace. Not the peace of surrender, but the peace of victory. The scandal didn't die quickly. 4 months, Damien and Sophia's names trended, their downfall dissected like a public autopsy. But eventually, as all scandals do, it faded, swallowed by the next controversy. Me. I slipped out of the spotlight. I blocked the noise, ignored the messages from strangers, and turned back to my life. Maya never left my side. She joked, teased, dragged me out for hot pot when I felt the weight of the past pressing too heavily. Big sis Elena, she'd say, grinning. You burned an empire down on your birthday. That's gotta be some kind of record. And I'd laugh, genuinely laugh, because she was right. One evening, months later, I stood on my balcony, the city sprawling beneath me. Neon lights blinked, horns blared. Life thrummed on as it always did. I held a cup of tea, steam curling upward, and thought of everything that had happened. Damien. Vivian. The Hales. 3 years of devotion wasted. 3 years of love trampled. But also 3 years that forged me into steel. I whispered into the night, more to myself than anyone else. What goes around comes around. And this time it had come full circle. I wasn't naive anymore. I wasn't the girl who smiled through insults, who bent so a man could stand taller. I was Elena Brooks, granddaughter of a master, daughter of resilience, a woman who had walked through betrayal and come out unburned, unbowed, unbroken. And though I didn't know what love the future would bring, I knew one thing for certain. I would never again settle for less than I deserved. The end.